been a while since I rocked the old hoodie and sweatpants. Good morning and happy Saturday, folks. So, I guess my low would be last night, really late, like 1 o'clock in the morning, something kind of sad occurred to me. Not like, jaw-droppingly, debilitating sad. More like feeling bummed kind of sad. Like the sort of thing where, yeah, you feel bummed, but it's not going to ruin your day or anything. Just sort of something that it was brought to your attention, or you at least thought of something that sort of made me feel bummed out. Basically, I feel bummed. Bummed is really kind of the right word to say for this. And, I was able to sleep in, so that was nice. So that's my high. And my act of kindness. Actually, another part of my high was, I started watching the NCAA college wrestling championships. That's been a lot of fun to watch. Holy cow. I watched a little bit of it at Knicks, and then I went to a Picks where it was really taking place. I'm probably going to go back to Picks tonight to watch it. That's going to be awesome. And my act of kindness was, it was funny because a couple of people I knew at Knicks saw this one family, and it was like a dad, a mom, and their daughter. The mom and the daughter were sitting down, but the dad was standing up. So a couple of us trying to move. He's like, no, I'm fine standing. Which, listen, even if the act of kindness isn't successful, the fact is we at least try to do something nice. That's really what's more important. So, what is it that kept me up last night? What was the thing that made me feel so bummed? Well, as the rather unambiguous titling will tell you, I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. No, that's not why I'm bummed. Stay with me. I guess I should probably explain my overall history as a Cowboys fan, because it's rather interesting to say the least. When I was a really little kid, my father was and still is a Cowboys fan. And this is when the Cowboys won those 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Now, obviously, when you're a little kid, you tend to rebel against some of the things your parents like, but you don't know how to go about doing it. And then I learned there was a team known as the Green Bay Packers. When I was a little kid, green was my favorite color. For reference, I don't really have a favorite color at the moment. It just really depends on my mood. But when I was a little kid, green was my favorite color. And so I have the team, the Green Bay Packers. That's awesome. Well, what little kid who likes the color green is going to be enticed by that? And the Packers won their Super Bowl. It was great. Everything was going fine. And then came the next Super Bowl, which the Packers lost. Which is another funny story for another video. But let's keep on track here. After the Packers lost that Super Bowl, I really felt like, as a football, wouldn't know it yet. I wouldn't know this yet, but I became a football fan through that. But up until I was maybe in my late teens, I was kind of in a haze. Because the Cowboys really weren't doing anything that great, and I kind of became, disenfranchised after the Packers lost. So I really didn't know, where to go from here. There were times when the Cowboys would do well, and, I feel happy, at least for my dad, that, his team won. Listen, when you're a little kid, you're going to hear whatever popular athlete names come to your head. Like Troy Aikman, maybe Emmett, whoever the quarterback for your favorite team is. Emmitt Smith, that was another name that was brought up a lot, stuff like that. It wasn't until I was just about to turn 18. That was the year of the undefeated Patriots, and the Dallas Cowboys were actually starting to do pretty well again. But before that, it was probably the year before when a quarterback by the name of Tony Romo had the bobble in Seattle. I'm sure some of you football fans out there know what I'm talking about. And then the Cowboys start going on a roll again. We go 13-3, and we lose in the playoffs to the Giants, who would eventually beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It wasn't until years later I learned that the reason why we lost is because Tony Romo took Jason Witten and a bunch of receivers to Cancun. Or was it Cabo? I don't know. It begins with the C. Point is, instead of preparing for the playoffs like they were supposed to, they goofed off. And that's actually the one thing about Tony Romo, even more so than all the choking, that bothers me. That's not what I thought of last night, though. Stay with me. It really wasn't until after college when, I really didn't know what to do with my life or what I was going to gravitate towards in life that I started liking the Dallas Cowboys again. That first season I started liking them again. This is like 2013. We go 8-8. But the next year, things really started falling into place. Like, Dallas Cowboys go 12-4. I actually started liking Tony Romo again. And then the Des Cotty game happens. But from that year on, that's when I really started liking the Cowboys again. For real. Which actually brings me to why I'm bummed now. Because, I'm bummed that the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl since 1995. I'm bummed that Jerry Jones is going to constantly keep interfering until he probably dies. And it bothers me that, both the Giants and the Eagles have both won 2 Super Bowls since the Dallas Cowboys won their last one. Believe it or not, though, amongst all of that, there's one thing that actually bothers me even more, that has me feeling bummed. It's the fact that every player that was on the Cowboys that I liked when I started liking the Cowboys again, or any player that was drafted in those first couple of years that I liked when I started liking the Cowboys again, is either gone or, on another team. And by gone, I mean retired. Let me put you like this. If you're, say, a comic book fan, you don't simply become a comic book fan right away. There's always like that one hero or character that gets you into liking comics, like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Most people forget they're comic book heroes. Or if you like, acting in movies, there's probably an actor that, got you into, inspired you to become someone who loves theater or acting. Like, for a really great example is William Shatner, who turns 94 today, by the way. Happy birthday, Mr. William Shatner, by the way. It'd be funny if I dedicated this video to him, wouldn't it? He actually inspired Jason Alexander to become an actor, and without that, we wouldn't have George Costanza on Seinfeld. It's the inspiration, that sort of thing that you like about whoever that gets you into liking something. For me, when it came to liking the Cowboys again, it wasn't the fact that we were, winning or losing. It was because there was a bunch of really likable guys on that team. And again, they're either retired or, they're on another team. DeMarco Murray, retired. Des Bryant, retired. Sean Lee, the general himself, he retired. Jason Witten, retired. Cole Beasley, retired. Travis Frederick, retired. Zach Martin, retired. Tyron Smith is currently playing for another team, but he's probably going to retire soon. Leighton Vander Esch, retired. Jalen Smith on another team. Ezekiel Elliott, I think he's about to retire. Chidobe Awuzie, I believe is on another team, retired. Oh, shoot. Hold on a second. There's one other player I'm thinking of. Hold on. Byron Smith. Hold on. Is it Byron Smith? Byron Jones, that's what I'm thinking of. Byron Jones. Yeah, he's retired now. They're all gone. The only player that's still active on the team right now is Dak Prescott. Actually, I should have added Tony Romo to that list. I mean, yeah, I made fun of Tony Romo, but you know what? I can't say I fully hate him. I don't. So yeah, Tony Romo retired. And that makes me sad. Like, those players that got me into liking the Cowboys again are no longer there. I mean, I can genuinely, and by the way, like, what I'm feeling, like, I'm not the only one who feels this. I mean, there's lots of other football fans for other football teams who like that team because they had players on that team that they liked that are now gone. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to say there was a Philadelphia Eagles fan that's bummed because Jason Kelce's retired. You know, that's just one of many examples I could probably pull out of my hat. So, is there a bright side to any of this? Well, kinda, yeah. I mean, I mentioned Tony Romo. He's currently being successful. Oh my God, the cops are after me because I like the Cowboys. I'm only kidding. Again, Tony Romo, he's being an announcer for, is it Fox he's announcing for? Or no, it's for NBC, I forget. But, you know, he's being really successful with that. Jason Witten is a high school football coach in Texas, and they just recently won the state championship. And speaking of Jason Witten, quite a few of those players that I mentioned earlier that are retired are either shoo-ins for the Hall of Fame or are about to, or are teetering on the edge of making the Hall of Fame. I mean, right off the top of my head, Jason Witten, he'll be getting in the Hall of Fame. Tyron Smith, he'll be getting in the Hall of Fame. Zach Martin, he'll be getting to the Hall of Fame. Travis Frederick, he'll be getting to the Hall of Fame. And that's actually one thing I want to mention. Philadelphia Eagles fans. Yes, I know. Jason Kelce's awesome. I'm not going to deny you that. However, I would like to remind you that we, the Dallas Cowboys, actually had a big damn hero of a bearded center before Jason Kelce popularized it. That man's name was Travis Frederick. The reason why you don't really hear about him or really any of the other linemen for the Cowboys I mentioned, like Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, is because they like to keep to themselves. They're pretty quiet like that. Even Jason Witten is a pretty quiet guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, you'll have people with pretty bombastic personalities, like Des Bryant, who, yeah, I would say he probably could make the Hall of Fame. I think so. I mean, if I really want to make myself even more sad, I could say that all those players I mentioned have never won a Super Bowl. I mean, the one player that actually came the closest, I would say, is probably Chidobe Awuzie, because I think he was on the Bengals when they lost to the Rams in the Super Bowl. I know Cole Beasley got pretty close too, because after he left Dallas, he played for the Bills and they lost in the AFC Championship to the Chiefs. So that happened. Other players I think that could make the Hall of Fame for Dallas, or who played for Dallas, well, it'd be a stretch, but I would love if Sean Lee got to do it. Like, when I started liking the Cowboys again, like, the vast majority of players I liked were on offense. Sean Lee was that first defensive player that I really liked. Plus, he had a really badass nickname, the General. Like General Lee. Even though it's technically for the Confederacy, but semantics. And you know, speaking of Sean Lee, because he's a Penn State alumni, if you're a Penn State fan, #we are, it's a great time to be a sports fan right now for Penn State. I mean, even if you, like, not only did their football team make it to the Final Four for the NCAA playoffs, but their wrestling team is now #1 in the nation. Like, if you're a Penn State fan, you should be feeling pretty happy right now. So, I guess to sum everything up, actually, you know what? If I want to keep going with, what former Dallas Cowboys players have been successful at, like Byron Jones, I don't know if he still has it, but he actually set the world record for long jump. The world record for long jump. I think he still has it too. Let me check. Yeah. Almost 10 years to the day, and Byron Jones still has the world record for the long jump. You know, that's pretty awesome. So, I guess to summarize this whole video, yeah, I'm sad that a bunch of my favorite Cowboys players aren't playing football anymore, whether they were playing for Dallas or not. Or some of them are no longer on the Dallas Cowboys. That makes me sad. But I can be proud of the fact that, I got to see them. I got to know their names. And they're the reason why I like the Cowboys again. And that's not to say there aren't any players on the Dallas Cowboys I like currently. I mean, listen, I will defend Dak Prescott to my dying day because you know what? He's handling everything a lot better than Tony Romo ever did. I know I said I'd be a little nice to Tony Romo, but let's call it what it is. Dak Prescott knows how to handle himself better. I like CeeDee Lamb. He's still playing, so I couldn't, name him on the list of players I said earlier. That tackle we drafted, Tyler Guyton, I like him. There's other players that I can't think of off the top of my head, but honestly, the sad part is, and this is actually something Jason Kelce said himself, is the fact that on paper, the Dallas Cowboys should always be a contender for people to watch out for. And we really should have more than just those Super Bowls we won in the 70s and then later in the 90s. It's just that our organization sucks. It sucks. Again, Jason Kelce said himself, during his time as a Philadelphia Eagle, Dallas won more games than the Eagles did when they played against each other. But there's a reason why the Eagles won those 2 Super Bowls, because organizationally, they're just better. Howie Roseman knows what he's doing. And for all the flack that the Eagles fans get for being rude and obnoxious and booing to Santa, you gotta give the devil their due. They've got 2 Super Bowls and Dallas doesn't. But, at least I can be... I mean, honestly, I was more angry at the fact that the Eagles won that first Super Bowl than this last one. Oh, by a wide margin. I was actually pretty happy when the Eagles won this last Super Bowl. I mean, again, I like Jalen Hurts. I like the fact they got Saquon Barkley. Lane Johnson's on the team. I like Lane Johnson. Again, I may not be an Eagles fan, but there are players on the Eagles I like. I can say that about, other players on other teams. Like, I like Cooper Kupp now he's a Seahawk, but I liked him when he was on the Rams. I can go with the Chiefs. I like Pat Mahomes. I like Travis Kelce. And Chris Jones. Again, even if I'm not a fan of the teams themselves, there's going to be players on those teams that I like. And should any of them ever retire? Yeah, I'm going to be pretty bummed, like I'm bummed about my Dallas Cowboys players right now. But at the same time, I can't help but be really thankful that those types of players are the ones that got me into liking football again. And it makes me all the sad whenever I think about times like right now when we're in the off season and no more football. I mean, we got the draft coming up. That's going to be fun. But that's about it. So, I guess I'm feeling kind of mixed right now. But after having talked about what I just said, I'm feeling a lot better. Just thought I wanted to share that with all you guys. I hope you all like this video. If you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm very humble in this video. For all you guys watching, enjoy it today. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Saturday. And remember, if any of you guys want to talk to Jim, always want to hear the Lenny, always hear back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.